Part of this project was for early intervention for toddlers and for the deaf, for hearing impaired. Um, the National Association of the Deaf has found ways to prevent hearing loss going undiagnosed by early intervention, obviously, for babies. And what they have done to do about this is they have an early hearing intervention act, or detecting intervention act. And what that basically does is since about 2000, they have been running hear screening tests for babies. And what that does is the first month, like when your baby's in that hospital, obviously you want to get, treated, you want to get looked at. And the test that they do on babies specifically, it is called a optoacoustic emissions test. And they put like a small probe, an instrument in your ear, and they send sounds so that it records your response to the sound. And that basically tells you whether or not your baby can hear. And usually if your baby fails that test, they want to make sure that your baby gets looked at, like any other problem that your baby might have. And they want you to see an audiologist just to make sure, like, if there is hearing loss or deafness, that it gets treated. Because not all the times, 100% your baby might not be, like, totally deaf. Like, there are different types of hearing loss. There's conductive, sensorial, and there's mixed. And the conductive one, it's less invasive, it's more treatable, because it's usually like a sign of like blockage in your ear. But it is treatable. And then the sensorial one, it's a little more advanced, because it's like there's a problem with like of how your ear is structured, and so that's a little more difficult because it can range from being temporary, or you can't hear certain things, or you're completely deaf. And it's important to know that there are options for your baby. There's always options for your baby. And getting looked at, getting a second opinion is good. And also for the Early Hearing Detection and Intervention Act, they, what they have been trying to do is to renew the act so that your families do get the proper need, because not everybody is getting their hear screening test for their baby like they are doing today. Because about 95% of babies in hospitals, once they're born, they're getting a hair screening test. And and lastly, it is easier for babies, toddlers, to learn from like 8 to 10 months to learn their American Sign Language. At first they might not get it, but because they generate motor skills more earlier than their speech skills, they say that it's a lot more effective, because by you showing your baby signs, it's helping them. It's helping them learn how to speak to each other. And by showing them like blanket, a stuffed animal, or what love means, or I think this is love, I forget. But it helps your baby grow and learn to communicate. And lastly, by getting your baby the proper treatment and resources that they need, there is associations like the American Speech, Language, and Hearing Association, and it just basically helps your baby, helps with your baby for communication skills. and you want to get that. You want to get that looked at. And this just helps families make more aware that deaf and hearing loss is a thing. And that's it.